We are going to save you some money based on this little episode. You know why? Because we're here talking to Jackie Clark, who wrote a book, and she's a really smart bookkeeper. How's that sound, Jackie?
Sounds good.
My name is Kenneth French. I'm with vastsolutionsgroup.com, and Jackie is also with vastsolutionsgroup.com, and she specifically is what I would call a bookkeeper to the stars, huh? She wrote a book or a guidebook, whatever you want to call it, and I think it's, I would say it's one way of vastsolutionsgroup.com adding value to our small business owner clients, and specifically, let's get right into it. How's that sound, Jackie?
All right, let's go.
All right, Jackie, who are you? What's your deal? Where give me a little bit about your background, where you live, how cool you are. Go.
I have about 15 years in the accounting field. Most of it is with bookkeeping. I live in New York. It's just something that I've always loved doing.
You love bookkeeping? You actually love
it? Honestly, I like working with numbers.
But you seem so, not to put down bookkeepers or people who like numbers, but you seem so personable. You're like a normal person to hang out with.
Isn't that a good thing, though?
It's just rare in bookkeeping.
I know.
You know how it is. You work with numbers, you work with typical person. And I think sometimes people don't want to work with bookkeepers because they can't vibe with them. You're totally different,
Gotcha.
Yeah. So, we'll start from the backwards to the beginning. So, AI, vastsolutionsgroup.com really uses AI more than really pretty much any business is the way I look at it. We've been doing AI for years, right? Mm-hmm. And you were given the assignment, actually a couple of assignments, with respect to AI, kind of start a guidebook with kind of the foundation being AI. And then you ended up writing a book about how to operate a modern bookkeeping business, specifically, really as an assignment. And I think you probably learned a lot about AI as a result. What are your thoughts about, employing AI? Because I think there's some business owners out there that don't know AI and think, whoa, we're kind of weird for using AI as a foundation. But what are your thoughts now about AI and artificial intelligence as it relates to business in general?
As far as bookkeeping goes, it's very beneficial because it helps you systematize things and it helps things flow better. And you can just set stuff that happens monthly and it can go. The AI, I think, is a huge thing because most bookkeeping is all online now. Most don't do pen and paper or anything like that. So the AI helps with all the different systems that you have to use. Everything's computerized nowadays.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love it. So then, actually, let's get to probably the most important thing for a business owner. Why does bookkeeping save me money? Is there a way to save me money because I'm utilizing a bookkeeper or a bookkeeping system?
It allows you to free up your own time. It allows somebody else to take a look at your books and see if things are correct, if you're missing something, if something should be changed. And it allows the bookkeeper to give you pointers on, hey, you could be doing this to get this better. There's many different aspects that a bookkeeper brings more than just looking at the numbers.
Well, does the IRS say I got to keep my books as a business owner?
Most definitely. You have to have record of what you're doing.
Got it. Yeah, I think that's a big thing. A lot of business owners don't think about. I keep my receipts in a shoebox, and then I'll do my taxes. How can people lower taxes when their shoebox is filled with receipts? It's really hard to lower taxes and track your own, your expenses, etc. when they're doing it that way.
Yep.
Yeah. So, all right. So, tell me a little bit about the book, just in general. Let's say I'm a bookkeeper. Yeah, let's say I'm a bookkeeper. And you mentioned, in the title, how to operate a modern bookkeeping business. Well, give me a little flavor of the book.
It goes through different programs you can use to help you. It even mentions AI in it multiple times. It's pretty much like a workflow on how to run a modern day bookkeeping business.
Yeah. And I think that's important. People say, well, why do you guys do stuff for bookkeepers, or why do you do, when I say stuff, why do you teach bookkeepers, or why do you teach CPAs? We have 10,000 people that we're actively, for the most part, actively teaching within our Clubhouse group, because, I run the tax club on Clubhouse. We have actually a few hundred, 10,000, 9,000 and something, bookkeepers and tax professionals. And I think things like this we're putting out, how to operate a modern bookkeeping business, really helps small business owners, but it helps bookkeepers, and it helps tax professionals. But anyway, let's dovetail a little bit into kind of what I would say is the next phase. So why is it important to have a bookkeeper? Will a bookkeeper actually add value to me as a small business owner? I mean,
I think so, because a lot of times you run into instances where people try and do their own books, and then it can just get messy from there. Whereas, like I said, a bookkeeper is an extra set of eyes looking at things in case you miss something, in case something needs to be put where it wasn't originally. It's just an extra set of eyes that helps with the overall picture of your business.
Okay, I think I would like that, a second set of eyes. But then the question is it worth the cost? What typically, maybe not for you, but in general, what's a charge a bookkeeper charges, let's say a solopreneur on average?
It honestly depends. Some charge per hour, which it could be like 40 to 70 per hour, and then others charge monthly, which can be anywhere from like 250 to 1,500, depending on how much workflow is in that company.
I understand. So really what you're saying is vastsolutionsgroup.com charges too little. What's
Yep.
what's a typical charge? Thanks. What's a typical charge then for a vastsolutionsgroup.com client? Obviously, don't say any client names, but in general.
I think you're closer to the 250 for most of them.
Yeah, we got to raise the fees. Just kidding. By the way, how does someone get a hold of you, Jackie?
My email is jrc@vastsolutionsgroup, and then my phone number, we changed them.
Do you know? I guess it sounds like it's most common to get a hold of you at jrc@vastsolutionsgroup.com from the side.
Yes.
All right.
That's
All
the
right. So
easiest.
let's get into the nitty gritty. Help me to understand a little bit more about bookkeeping.
Okay.
What's typical when you're spending, let's just say you're spending 2 hours. I don't know let's say you're spending 2 hours doing a bookkeeping assignment for a client. What is it truly that you do?
The biggest thing is matching what they have in the system to what their bank statements say, and just making sure that all of their expenses and deposits everything's going to the correct accounts, so that at year end it's easier for the tax preparer to look at their books and, hey, everything's where it needs to be.
I understand. So when you say the system, help me to understand. What do you mean by the system?
Sorry. We use QuickBooks Online, which is very, very user friendly for bookkeepers. And most bank accounts, you can link them right to it so that you can easily reconcile. And then the ones that you can't, you obviously have to manually input, but that's very simple and easy too.
So do you suggest, let's say I'm a real estate investor and I've got 5 real estate investments, and let's say I have 5 LLCs. Should I have one account, one checking account, one ATM account, or whatever the case is for each LLC or each property in that case?
For each, yeah, you should have everything separate if they're different LLCs.
Yep. I think a lot of people don't, and it causes a lot of issues as a result.
Yes, sure does.
I got you. I totally get it. I think you already basically said it. I think a lot of people don't realize if they have a good bookkeeper, that keeps them in line with their tax returns. I mean, it gets them better prepared to do their books, i.e. then to do their tax returns. Therefore, they know a little bit about where they are financially, plus the IRS. They could be better prepared for kind of the IRS filing and theoretically down the road for an audit. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but just in case they're well armed, just in case there is an audit. And by the way, I would say there's a very, very small chance for audit, but still you want to be prepared. If there is an audit, you have the materials there right before your eyes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Makes it so easy because any reports are right in front of you that they would need. So it's very simple.
Yeah. So me as a business owner, what are some modern things I should adopt as it relates to my bookkeeping?
Definitely using banks that can link into like QuickBooks that we use. That's a big thing because not all banks do still. Just making sure you're not commingling stuff like with your personal and your business. That's a big thing, is to keep them separate, because that doesn't make for very pretty bookkeeping.
Yeah. Let's talk about that. People don't realize this because we have a compliance arm. So with respect to that, so let's just say, and I think you know this. Let's say I'm a business owner and I commingle. So I have my personal assets sometimes pay for my business, and my business pay for my personal. What do you think is the biggest issue with that? What's the biggest downside for a business owner?
That even though you're using, like, sometimes it could be personal or business expenses, which is fine. But if you're using personal stuff to pay it, it makes it harder to prove that it was business related.
Yep. That's exactly right. And as an example, let's just say I get sued, and I've been doing that. I've been paying for my personal stuff with my business and my business with my personal. So I basically am commingling, your term. And at the same time, if someone's trying to sue me, they can invalidate my, let's say, my LLC, my business.
Yep.
So what does that mean? Everything that I own personally, if they're trying to come after the LLC and there's a little bit of money, but they see that I'm commingling everything, they could come after me personally. So if I own, let's just say, $10 million worth of things in my personal name, but in my company I own $1 million. So, but they want to go after me for 20 million. If I've been spending some with my personal, some with my corporate assets, and they invalidate that LLC, they could come after my personal assets, and that's a bad thing, because then I lose whatever. In my case, my pretend world, $10 million.
Yep, you lose pretty much everything.
Yeah, I don't like that. People don't realize that, and that's a big, and that's really what we do. That's one of the biggest things we do. And people say, "Oh, that seems easy." Well, just a small number of transactions done like that can really cause some problems. Now, let's just say I do that. This is a good question for it. Let's say I do that. I've, this year, let's say in 2000 and whatever, let's say it's 2024, I've, made some personal purchases, but I've had my company pay for it. How can I kind of fix that? What are some ways to fix that so it doesn't make it so I invalidate my LLC, as an example?
We can put it as like an owner's pay, but it still is all part of your business information, is where it would show up. So it's a very touchy subject, because the personal stuff just shouldn't show up on the business, and it's very difficult for some people to understand that.
Yeah, it really is big. I mean, I don't think I realized that until I became a business owner years ago. Man, it's a big issue. You really can't, because I mean, especially our clients, let's say at vastsolutionsgroup.com, we have a client who's worth whatever, $50 million. And we want to make it so they're claim proof, so they can't get sued. And one way of doing that is by having clean bookkeeping, hence the reason you're on board, right, Jackie?
Yep.
So let's dive into a little bit deeper, not too much deeper, but a little bit deeper into how to operate modern bookkeeping business that your guide or your book talks about. So what are some other items that a business owner should employ modern bookkeeping, or maybe a bookkeeper should employ modern bookkeeping? What are some other kind of tactics or softwares or thoughts behind that process that you think make sense?
There's, in the book that I wrote, there's a lot of different references to different kinds of online sites that you can use. Like, I'm trying to scroll down through it right now.
I appreciate you like that. I put you on the spot, but I think you understand what I'm basically trying to convey to some of the listeners, or the viewers in this case, is really what are some kind of tactics that can help them as a business owner by using kind of some modern or sophisticated sites or technology. Because I think a lot of business owners don't they're old school. We have some clients and some well-heeled clients worth whatever $10 million, and they're still using Excel spreadsheets. And I guess I'm thinking that doesn't really make sense. There's so many ways that you could really lower your tax liability really by using sophisticated technology, that being even with bookkeeping.
Right. The biggest thing is just automating everything. It makes it go so much quicker to have automated things that, like, if you have monthly charges that come out, you can just automate those so that you don't even have to do anything with them. They'll just be there. And that's one of the huge things with modern bookkeeping is you don't have the spreadsheets, the repetitive stuff that you always used to have to go in and manually enter. It's all just, you can automate every single aspect of it.
So you bring up a big point. So do you do at vastsolutionsgroup.com, do you do pay for expense? So you not only do bookkeeping, but do you also like pay invoices for clients, as an example? I'll just stop there. Do you pay invoices for clients?
I don't necessarily, only because all the clients I have don't really invoice anybody.
Mm-hmm.
But that is something that we could do.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Other people at the company do that, is what you're saying.
Yes.
Yep, I got it. How much, I'm going to ask you to speak just in general for bookkeeping. How much do bookkeepers do? I mean, what's a big engagement for a bookkeeper?
The biggest part, like, especially if it's a new client, is usually a cleanup, going through what they had, making sure it's correct, and then moving forward from there so that your monthly processes are easygoing and they just flow. That's the biggest thing, is just making sure that what is there already works and things balance from that.
I understand. So let's say, as an example, I had 4 different LLCs, and I've been commingling all the assets. And let's say I've done this for the last few years. You can go back and clean them up and make sure all the transactions are in the right LLC. Is that what you're saying? That's a big kind of engagement for a bookkeeper?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I got it. All right. So how many years can you go back?
It depends on taxes, honestly, and what has been filed and what hasn't. Because if taxes have already been filed, you really don't want to touch what was there already, because it was filed based off of that data. Unless you're doing an amendment to those taxes, you don't want to go back any further than the last year's taxes that had been filed.
Yeah, but what happens if an amendment would help me? It's called an X, right? An X amendment. What happens if it will help me in lower my taxes? Do you, as a bookkeeper, go back and do that in working with CPA? Yeah, that's what I thought. And that's I mean, if I could save whatever, I'm making this up, $10,000, $20,000 by going back and changing my returns based on some cleaned bookkeeping, it seems like that would make sense, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. We have about, I don't know, let's say 4 minutes. So we got to land this plane here. So what are some, here's one. What's the dirtiest set of books you've ever seen? I need a case study from you. And then turn those books around to a clean set of books, if that makes sense, without saying a client name clearly. But does that make sense? So, I mean, I'm looking for a case example that someone could walk away and say, wow, maybe I'm in that boat. But I want people to understand what are some of those boats. So, meaning, again, a very dirty set of books, and then you've turned them around and they're clean. Can you go ahead and cite one example?
Probably going to understand this one because it's a current one. But the customer, instead of giving statements from like companies, was doing spreadsheets themselves, and they were missing lots of information in those spreadsheets. So when I went in to try and balance things, I could get nothing to balance because money that had gone into their books wasn't actually accounted for in these spreadsheets. So the biggest thing is just making sure that the customer has actual statements from like a bank, a realtor group or something like that. If they do realty, just making sure that they have the actual correct numbers is the biggest thing, because you can't make the books match if you don't have the correct information in front of you. And this one is, we're getting there finally because we finally have the correct information.
Yeah, I get you. So in that case, so what's the turnaround? So what you're saying is you went from a dirty set of books
Oh yeah,
all to a clean set of books. Now, also, is that going to potentially save him money, meaning save him taxes as a result?
definitely, because his income was very overstated before we got the correct
Mm.
information.
Got it. So I would assume someone could sell their business. In his case, I think down the road he wants to sell his business. So because I know who you're talking about. So are you saying then he's going to, because he has a clean set of books going forward, he would be able to sell his business for more money?
Absolutely. He definitely will have projections for this year and forward. We can finally give him correct amounts now that we have all of the information we need.
I understand. So I love that. So that's a great case example. Dirty books, so his business was worth X. Now clean books, so his business is worth X times 2 or whatever. Times
Yep.
2 is an example.
Yep.
Yep. That's an awesome case. So what's one thing, closing, just about to wrap up, what's one thing you learned in writing the book using AI? One thing you learned as a bookkeeper in writing your book, or maybe even as in reading your book? What's one takeaway that you learned about your book, how to operate a modern bookkeeping business?
The biggest thing that I learned was all of the different programs that you can use to help you with the automation of it. Like QuickBooks does automation itself, but there's other programs that you can use to help with it also. That was the biggest thing I learned from it.
So that's huge. You've been
I
doing this for years, and you learned by putting this together, this book. So meaning even someone coming in brand new in bookkeeping will be able to learn by reading your book.
Absolutely.
Gotcha. And just to close the loop, your book can be gotten or can be purchased at vastsolutionsgroup.com. Again, vastsolutionsgroup.com. Anything you want to say in closing? We have 30 seconds. You want to say something in closing to the audience out there?
Well, I just want to thank you for actually having us do this book because it was quite informative.
Awesome. I'm glad you said that because now people are going to learn, one, about AI, hopefully from this. Also,
Yep.
two, about modern bookkeeping, about the importance of bookkeeping, and maybe even learn a little bit about who Jackie is. And again, to reach Jackie, it was JRC. Again, JRC at vastsolutionsgroup.com. That sound right?
Yep.
Awesome.